Good morning, welcome to Netzach Yisrael, to our new Kehillah. We're promoting the idea of midos development, personal growth, shalom bayis. That's the emphasis of our Kehillah. And I'm pleased to start today with a series of shiurim on the Alter of Slobodka, Rabbi Nosson Tzvi Finkel Zatzal, in his Sefer Ohr Hatzafun. Sefer Ohr Hatzafun, also known as Ohr Hatzafun. Two names for it, Ohr Hatzafun and Ohr Hatzafun. It's very hard to get. So those people who are listening online to these shiurim, please contact me, Yisroel Roll at gmail.com. We're going to begin with the mimer from the Ohr Hatzafun on page 7 in the Sefer Ohr Hatzafun, or also known as Ohr Hatzafun, on page 7, called Midos Videos, in the second paragraph. If we ask any person or any child in school, what's the first command that God gave to Adam and Chava? What would Don't eat from the Eitz Hadas. That's what we all think. That's the mythology. That's the myth. Let us right now, according to the Alter of Slobodka, who believes in Gadlus Haadam, the greatness of man, and he's the father of psychology, of believing in yourself, of self-esteem. He says the following. Take a look at this pasuk in Perek Beis Pasuk Dezayin. The first command that Hashem gave to Adam was not, do not eat from the Eitz Hadas in the Garden of Eden. The first mitzvah he said was, Vayitzav Hashem Elokim ala Adam lemor mikol Eitz Hagan achol tochel. Hashem commanded upon man to say, from all the trees of the garden you shall surely eat. And the second pasuk says, Ume'etz hadas tovara lo sochal mimenu. And the eitz hadas of good and evil, lo sochal, you shall not eat. Kibyom acholcha mimenu mostamus. On the day that you eat from it, you shall surely die. Says the Alter of Slobodka, the purpose of life is achol toichal. Eat, enjoy this world. In fact, the Yerushalmi in Peah says, if there is a pleasure in the world that Hashem has offered us and we did not partake of, Hashem will call us to account and say, why didn't you enjoy my world? Of course, you enjoy the world and you connect it to the source and you say, Hashem created this kiwi. Hashem created this mango. Hashem created the Grand Canyon. And we say, Ma Rabu Masech Hashem. But everything in the world that Hashem has given us is there to enjoy. And the mountains in Switzerland. In fact, Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, at the age of 90, was taking a trip from Germany to Switzerland by train. And his Talmidim said to him, Rebbe, with all due respect, Rebbe is a little frail. You're 90 years old. You're going from Germany by train a number of hours to Switzerland? He said, I've lived nearby to Switzerland for so many years, many decades, and I have not yet seen the Alps. Hashem is going to ask me at the end of time, so Nu Shamshon, what do you think of my Alps? And I didn't go? I'm going. He took a train from Germany to the Alps to say, oh, Hashem, your Alps are so beautiful. The world was given to us to enjoy. And that is the first mitzvah, that's the first philosophy of life, says the Alter of Slobodka. Enjoy the world. Engage in the world. Of course, connect it to the source. That's called the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem. The mitzvah of Yichud Hashem, of oneness of God, is to connect everything to the source. That's Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. There is one God. Hashem Echad is Me'ached Hashem. How is Hashem one? What does it mean Hashem is one? Is to connect everything that Hashem gave us in this world and connect it to its source. Hashem Echad. Hashem is the source. Hashem is one means Hashem is the Makor, the source. And that is the first mitzvah of the Torah that Hashem gave to Adam. Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam lemor mikol eitz hagan achol tochel. Says the Alter of Slobodka in paragraph 2, page 7. Kasuv, this pasuk, Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam. Va'amru Chazal in Sanhedrin, and he quotes the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Nun Vav. Amud Beis, page 56b, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Adam harishon lo nitztava ela al avodah zara bilvad. This command, says the Gemara, this command, says the Sanhedrin, is the command of Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam. Hashem commanded man means do not do avodah zara. Believe in one God and do not do avodah zara. Vayitzav, Hashem commanded upon man to do what? Says the Gemara. That means avodah zara bilvad. Shenemar, as it says, Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam. He commanded upon man. What does that mean? Do not commit avodah zara. Hare, she'amitzvah harishona vayechida. The first and the only mitzvah shenitztava lav Adam harishon lada'as. Rabbi Yehuda Haisa arak al hayediya bilvad. The first mitzvah that Hashem commanded upon man, according to Rabbi Yehuda in the Gemara, is al hadeya bilvad. This is to know there is one God, to take everything in the world and submit it and connect it to its source. There is no avodah zara, which means there's no plethora of sources. That's the problem with polytheism. The whole Torah is a commentary on the mitzvah of Yichud Hashem, of oneness of God, and it's against avodah zara, says the Rambam. The whole Torah is a commentary on the mitzvah of serving Hashem, and it is against avodah zara. And what's wrong with avodah zara? What's wrong with polytheism? Says my Rebbe, Rav Milevsky Zatzal. He says, if you worship many gods, the corn god, the wind god, the fertility god, what you're doing is you're going to all these gods and you're trying to bribe them to serve you. Here's a meal offering. Here is an offering. I want you to serve me by giving me fertility. Give me corn. Give me livelihood. Give me health. That's many gods, many forces, polytheism, many gods, and say, I want you to work for me. That's an egocentric universe. That's what's wrong with polytheism. Polytheism creates that I am the center, and I want all the gods to work for me. Monotheism, belief in one God, and that is the first mitzvah, Vayitzav Hashem ala Adam, is that there is a monotheism. There is a theocentric universe, not an egocentric universe. And therefore we are here to serve God so please give me these things, God, so that I can serve you. Not that I can have them and enjoy life, rather I can have them to serve you, and that is the ultimate enjoyment of life. The ultimate joy and simcha in life is to take the goods of the world, to get the goodness of the world, and take it and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to serve the chairman of the board. What a great schus. You know, when you walk into the office in the morning and the chairman of the board says, good morning, Alexander. Good morning, Isaac Velvel. Good morning, Josh. Good morning, Rebbe. You go, chairman of the board said hello to me. Wow, I feel really good, right? I got noticed. Well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us notice every single morning. He gives us life. Moda ani lefanecha. And what do we say in Moda ani lefanecha? Moda ani lefanecha. Moda ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmasi rabba emunasi. Right? Moda ani shechazarta bi nishmasi. All in the singular. Moda ani, I thank you. Shechazarta bi, return to me. Nishmasi, my soul. Rabba emunasi. How great is my faith in you, God? Right? Is that what we say? No. One second, doesn't make sense. 1 second. Moda ani shechazarta bi nishmasi. It should say Rabba, everything in the singular, it should say Rabba emunasi. I thank you, living God. Shechazarta bi, you return to me. Nishmasi, my soul. How great is my faith in you, God. Rabba emunasi. But that's not what it says. It says Rabba emunasecha. How great is your faith? Who does God have faith in? It must be us. Right? Therefore, when we get up in the morning and we say, Rabba emunasecha, you have faith in me, I believe in the God who believes in me. That's the meaning of emunah. The meaning of emunah, of faith, is, of course, look outside. We didn't create all this, and therefore, of course, we believe in God. But that's not what emunah means. That's pashut. What emunah means is, I believe in the God who believes in me. How does he believe in me? How does he believe in you? He gave you life this morning. And therefore, he believes that you can take everything here in this world, all the joys of this world, and connect them to the source. And therefore, serve God monotheism. to believe in one God and to serve God and to self-actualize in God's will, which means that you and I have a part to play in God's plan. Is that not the best vote of confidence? That Hashem said, from all the trees of the garden you shall eat. I believe in you. Use them to serve me, which means you can use them to serve and self-actualize in the plan of helping God fulfill this world. That's the philosophy of the Alter of Slobodka. The Alter of Slobodka, Nosson Tzvi Finkel, says that we have to begin life by saying that Hashem believes in us, each of us. That's called Gadlus Haadam, the greatness of man, that he believes in us, and that we can achieve greatness by being a partner, a shutaf im HaKadosh Baruch Hu with Hashem, by actualizing this world. How? By actualizing ourselves. So self-actualization is the avodah. Self-actualizing ourselves and being the best we can be by serving Hashem is self-actualization, is service of God. It's not service of God over here and self-actualization over here. Rather, self-actualization is the service of God. That's the philosophy of the Gadlus Adam of the Alter of Slobodka. That it's not that we serve God on Shabbos and Sunday, when we a day off, and during the week we work on our stuff, but working on ourselves and working on our jobs and working on our families is itself the Avodas Hashem. That is the Chiddush, and that is the philosophy of the Alter of Slobodka. So he says, in the third line, on page 7, Hareisha mitzvah rishona v'yachida shenitztava aleha Adam rishon la'das. The first mitzvah is a mitzvah of da'as, of knowledge, of wisdom. Rabbi Yehuda Haisa rak ala de'al bilvad. He says, Rabbi Yehuda says in the Gemara on Sanhedrin, that this mitzvah of recognizing God as the source is a intellectual mitzvah. Da'as, deya, wisdom. V'lo matzinu bazeh shum inyan shel midos. And there is no reference here to character development. So it seems that the first mitzvah is a intellectual, philosophical, thinking mitzvah of da'as. V'amru Chazal, and Chazal says, V'amru Chazal in Breishis Rabbah, Perek Ches, skipped a line, let's start again. V'hine lemala beparsha kasuv, and says the Alter of Slobodka, that before this mitzvah of believing in God, or knowing God, or connecting everything to God, Vayitzav Hashem Elokim ala Adam, in Perek Beis, before that mitzvah, V'hine lemala beparsha kasuv, in Perek Aleph, Pasuk Chafav, Vayomer Elokim na'aseh Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu. Hashem said, let us make man, b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu, in our image and in our form. So take a look, going back into Breishis, chapter 1, verse 27. Verse 26 says, the Torah, Vayomer Elokim, na'aseh Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu, v'yirdgu Pasuk Chavav, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Chavav says, Vayomer Elokim na'aseh Adam, let us make man, b'tzalmeinu, in our image, kidmuseinu, in our form, v'yirdu bidgasayam, and you shall rule over the fish in the sea, uve'of hashamayim, and the fowl in the sky, uve'behema uve'chol ha'aretz, and the animals in the whole land, uve'chol ha'remes ha'romes ha'aretz, and all of the insects that crawl upon the earth. So before the mitzvah of believing in one God, before the deya, the knowledge of God, before connecting everything to God, which is in the second chapter, Perek Beis, there's a previous mitzvah, says the Alter of Slobodka, and that is na'aseh Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu. Let us make man in our image and our form. Says the Alter, quoting the Gemara, the Breishis. Says the Alter, quoting Breishis Rabbah, the Medrash. He says, B'sha shehaya Moshe kosev es Torah, when Moshe wrote the Torah, kivein shegila pasuk hazeh amar, when he came to this pasuk, and it says, Na'aseh Adam, let us make man. So Moshe Rabbeinu was worried, who is Hashem speaking to? Na'aseh, let us make man. So Moshe turned to Hashem and said, Ribon ha'olamim, Master of the universe, Ma'ata nosein pischon pela, meaning why are you giving an opportunity for the heretics to say there was more than one God? Na'aseh, let us make man. Etmaha, it is surprising. Amarlo, Hashem said to him, Kasuv, va'rotze litois yate. Whoever wants to make a mistake, let him make a mistake. Shim yavo hagadol litol reshus min hakatan. When a greater person comes to ask advice from his underlings, from his consultants, from his subjects, omrim lo lameid mi boracha. If you want to ask a question to your employees, and you say, I want to conduct a new survey, I want to conduct a new project, I want to do a new thing for the community. So you have to ask your underlings because you want to bring them along with you. You want them to join with you in the endeavor and buy in, right? So I know I have the idea, I have the concept. My underlings are just going to give effect to what my idea, my vision, my CEO vision. Why should I turn to my underlings and say to them, hey guys, what do you think? You want to come along with me? Want to join me in this project? So we learn that from Hashem. Hashem says, She'im yava hagadol litol reshus min hakatan mimenu, a great person will come and ask permission or ask to consult with those who are less than him. Omrim lo lameid miboracha, learn from your Creator. Shehu bara es alyonim es atachtonim, he created the heavens and the earth. The kiven shabal levaros es Adam, when he came to create man, nimlach b'malachei hashares. He came to ask advice and consultation with the angels, to ask them what they thought. And the Medrash says later that he asked Emes, the angel of Emes, should we create man? He asked the angel of Shalom, of peace, should we make man? So he asked the forces of the world, the angels of the world, should we make man? What do we learn from here? We learn from here that there is a concept called midos, that Hashem was humbling himself to turn to the angels, to turn to the forces that he created. Hashem himself created Emes and Shalom, right, and Chesed. And he turned to them and said, let's collaborate, let's put in Chesed to this man. Let's put Shalom into this man. Let's put peacefulness. Let's put kindness into this man. Let's put Tzedek into this man. He consulted with the underlings, the angels that he created, the forces he created. And he said, let's put them into man. Let us make man. So we see from here that in chapter 1, Hashem is showing us that the beginning of life is midos. Midos means you have to show humility. Ask your neighbors, ask your friends, ask your mishpacha, ask your family, dear wife, what do you think about this idea? And you have this idea, this vision, and you have to ask your wife and ask your children, what do you think of our new idea? Show midos. So he says, the Alter of Slobodka, that even before coming along to chapter 2, verse 26, says the Alter of Slobodka, even before chapter 2, verse 16, where Hashem says that you shall all connect everything to Hashem, that's a philosophical mitzvah. There's a prior command by Hashem to man, and that is, Na'aseh Adam, let us have midos. So says the Alter of Slobodka that of course the first mitzvah is to believe in one God and to connect everything. But included and incorporated in that mitzvah is the midah of consulting with those who are not as dehoiben, not as high as yourself. Meaning you have to have good midos. Na'aseh Adam means let us make man, let us consult, let us be humble. So before you get to a philosophical mitzvah of believing in one God, incorporated in that mitzvah is midos tovos, says the Alter of Slobodka. Says the Alter at the bottom of the page, third paragraph. Harei yeshkan hora mifureshes lemida shel derech eretz. Here we have a clear reference to the idea of derech eretz, which means of midos. Derech eretz means good deeds or good behavior. V'lo od ela shehi huchana merosh od kodem brias adam. And this concept of midos tovos comes before the creation of man. Because the words na'aseh Adam let us make man, or before man's creation. So inputted into man's constitution, the composition of man's makeup is Nasa Adam, is humility, which is the ultimate Midah Tova. And Hashem said, before man is created, I'm going to put humility, I'm going to put Midos in his structure, in his DNA. V'af lo ba lo kitzivoy v'azara, even though it's not a command. There are no commands to have Midos Tovos. There's no mitzvah, there's no bracha on, I'm now going to give tzedakah, I'm now going to be a mensch, I'm now going to have humility. There's a mitzvah on Kiddush, there's a mitzvah of Esrog, mitzvah of Shofar, I make a bracha. Why is there no bracha on Midos? Ela shekach noitzar. Man was created with a composition of Midos intrinsically. Midos is not commanded, it's part of who you are. Kloimar, shamida hazosh shel derech eretz hutba'a. It is intrinsic, it is incorporated, it is integrated, bitsuraso, in the form and essence of man, ubitzivyoinoi, in his desire, shel adam bitchilas yitziraso, in the beginning of his creation, al pi ma'amar shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, nasa adam b'tzalmenu kidmuseinu. In the words nasa adam b'tzalmenu kidmuseinu, let us make man in our image and in our form, is incorporated the idea of having midos. It's not a command, it's a requirement. It's a prerequisite of being a human being, is to have midos. V'lechoira, harei lo nitztava ha'adam ka'amur. Isn't it true, asked the Alter of Slobodka, wasn't man, his first commandment was, rak b'mitzvah yechida shelo la'avodah zara bilvad? What about chapter 2? Chapter 2 is the first command, Vayitzav. The words Vayitzav, Hashem commanded man not to believe in Avodah Zarah, but to believe in one God. Well, what do you mean Nasa Adam is a mitzvah of having Midos Tovos? The first mitzvah that Torah says is Vayitzav, you shall not believe in other gods. Nasa Adam is just a general statement of let us make man. It's not a command, but Vayitzav is a command. So what are you saying over here, asked the Alter of Slobodka, that Nasa Adam, that Midos is a precursor, a pre-element, a prerequisite to believing in one God? Ella Bal Korcha, says the Alter of Slobodka, out of necessity, we have to say, Anu Lamedim, we learn Mikan, from here we learn, Shechoiva Lilmod Mihaboira Yisparach, it is an obligation to learn from the Creator, Ulehisdamos Elav B'midosav, and to compare oneself, to be domelo, to be like him in his midos. And that idea of being like God in his midos, klula b'mitzvah zu shel vayitzav Hashem Elokim ala Adam, included in the mitzvah of vayitzav, you shall not have other gods before me. Included in that mitzvah is nasa Adam. Included in the mitzvah of believing in one God is, and how do you believe in one God? Act like him. These damos lakono. And this is the major principle of the Alter of Slobodka, who says that our purpose in life is to be like God. The purpose of life is to be godlike. And that's included in the words Nasa Adam, but that is included in the words Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al Adam, V'hadeos, V'hamidos, Eifo Achashein. That the word Deos, which means knowledge of God, and Midos are one. So what does the Rambam call his whole perek on Midos? What does he call them? Hilchos what? Hilchos Deos. The laws of knowledging of God. What does the Rambam call his laws of Midos? Hilchos Deos, which means, how do you know God? By acting like God. So the Alter of Slobodka says a beautiful idea over here, that the idea that the Rambam says, Hilchos Deos, of how a person has to act like God, is really a mitzvah of Midos. And he calls Midos Deos, that in the Deya, the knowledge of God, which is Vayitzav Hashem ala Adam, that God commanded us to know God and to believe in one God, it incorporates in it the idea of having Midos like God. So therefore, it's not only an intellectual mitzvah, believing in God, but it is a spiritual mitzvah of having Midos Tovos. That is incorporated in the idea of believing in one God. Says the second paragraph on page 8. Ube'emes, Halo hechrechi adavar, and in truth, this is required. This must be of necessity. Ki hech efshar la'adam ladas etz atzmius Hashem Yisbarach. How can man know God? She'eno guf v'al yasigeyu masige guf. God has no body, and those who have a body, which is us, how can we, who are finite and have a body, know something which has no body? How can we have a relationship with the ethereal concept of God when we ourselves are gashmiistic? Ella, shekol ha'hakara shelo hu rak b'midosav. The only way for us to understand God is through knowing His character, His midos. V'hakara b'midosav, and to recognize God's midos, He His damos elav. This is how we can become like God. So, how do we, finite beings, come to know God? How do you come to believe in God? By acting like God. So the mitzvah of believing in one God incorporates within it the mitzvah of midos, which is to act like God. There's no particular command, vayitzav, but in the word vayitzav, of to know God, to believe in God, to understand, to connect with everything to God, is, how do you know God? By acting like God. Acting like God. Says the Gemara now, there's a pasuk which says, in the Shira, which we say every day, and it's an unbelievable thing to be able to say the Shira every single day, and to say, Zeh Keli V'anveyu, this is my God, and I will glorify Him. Right? And it's a beautiful thing. Uperushoy Chazal, in the Gemara in Shabbos, Kuf Lamed Gimel, Amid Beis. Now let's open up our Gemara. You have with you the Gemara in Shabbos. Let's open up the Gemara in Kuf Lamed Gimel, Amid Beis, page 133b. And the Gemara says in Kuf Lamed Beis the following. So in the third wide line of the Gemara on page 133b, Kuf Lamed Beis, on the third wide line in the Gemara on Shabbos, Kuf Lamed Gimel Amid Beis, page 133b, it says, last words of the line, it says, Zeh Eli V'anveyu, this is my God and I will glorify Him. Detanya, Hisna'eh lefanav b'mitzvos esei. Be beautiful. What's Zeh Kili V'anveyu? This is my God and I will glorify Him. How do you glorify God? Says the first opinion in the Gemara. Aseh lefanav sukkah na'eh. How do you glorify? The word anveyu is naveh. Naveh Yerushalayim. Naveh Tzion. The beauty of Yerushalayim. Naveh. Naveh Tzion. Right? Naveh is a beauty. How do you beautify God? Zeh Eli V'anveyu. Naveh. The middle word of anveyu is naveh. How do you beautify God? By making Him a beautiful sukkah. Lulav na'eh, a beautiful lulav. Shofar na'eh, a beautiful shofar. Tzitzis na'eh, a beautiful pair of tzitzis. Sefer Torah na'eh. V'kasuv bo lishmoi bidyoy, and make the Sefer Torah in ink for the sake of Hashem. V'kulmus na'eh, with a beautiful quill. V'lavlar, uman, v'korchoi, v'shirayin, and put it beautiful with tie the scrolls together in a beautiful way. That is how you beautify God. Second opinion of the Gemara says the following. How do you glorify God? How do you beautify God? Abba Shaul Omer V'anveyu. How do you glorify God? How do you beautify God? Have dome lo. Be like God. Mahu chanun, as He is merciful, He has empathic, chen, He has gentleness, nurturing, sensitivity, verachum, and He is merciful and compassionate. Af ata heye chanun verachum. You too shall be chanun verachum. You also must be like God. So this is the Abba Shaul that the Alter of Slobodka goes on by saying his whole philosophy is based on this idea of Zeh Keli V'anveyu. How do you glorify God? This is my God and I will glorify Him. I will beautify Him. How do you beautify Him? By acting like Him. Ma'oru rachum af ata heya rachum. He is merciful, you be merciful. Now look at Rashi. Look at this unbelievable Rashi on the left side, who says, Have dome lo. Take a look at Rashi, about almost halfway down in the Rashis, on the left side. Rashi says, Have dome lo. Be like God. How do you glorify God? By being like Him. Says Rashi, V'lashon anvehu. The language of the anvehu, you shall glorify, is made up of two words. Ani v'hu. Anvehu, glorify. Anvehu is ani v'hu. I and you. I and him. Ese atzmo, I shall make myself kimoso, like God, ledavek bidrachav, to glue myself, to connect myself with his midos. Listen to this Rashi. The anveyu is made up of two words. Ani v'hu. I can be like you, God. What an incredible vote of confidence. Says Rashi, quoting Zek Keli v'anveyu, that anveyu, how do you glorify God? God is infinite. We are finite. How do you take a finite being and act like God and connect with God and have a relationship with God? Ani v'hu. Be like God. I can be like God. Says the Gemara. Abba Shaul says, you know how you can be like God? Act like God. He's Chanun? Be Chanun. He is Rachum? You should be Rachum. And these are the 13 attributes of God. How do you act like God? Says the Alter of Slobodka. Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum v'Chanun. Erech apayim v'rav chesed v'yemes no tzarech chesed la'alafim no seyavon v'afesha v'chato v'nakei. We say this on Kol Nidre many times. We say it in the Ne'ilah many times. We say we take out the Torah on Shavuos and on Sukkot and on Pesach. Hashem, Hashem, Karachim v'Chanun. In Sfard, Nusach Sfard, in Tachanun, we say it every day. Hashem, Hashem, Karachim v'Chanun. Say it tomorrow on Slichas, Bahab. Every day we say Hashem, Hashem, Karachim. Why? The seminal idea of believing in God and connecting with God is to act like God. And these midos are the way in which we can emulate God, is by having a relationship with God. That's having a relationship with God, by acting like Him. Says the Alter of Slobodka. Kloimar, al yedei zeh she'adam yizdam elokonu keviyachol, through that which man can act like his creator, lios rachum v'chanun kemoso, to be merciful and empathic like God, hu ba lidei hakaraso. You get to know God, you get to have the idea of God, the knowledge of God, the belief in God, through the midos. That midos is not just a nice thing to do. That having good midos and being a good husband and being a good father and being gentle is itself knowing God. Because God is all those things, and therefore our job is to be like God. Lachein, kedayu lichtov, nasa adam betzalmenu kidmusenu. Therefore it is necessary for the Torah to say, before man was created, let us make man in his image and in his form, to be domelo, kidmusenu means to be in his form, to be like God. Lelamed al midas derech eretz, to teach us the midah of derech eretz, of good deeds, of good behavior. Lamrot sheyachol latzeis mizeh pischon pel laminim, even though people might say, as Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, yeah, but nasa Adam, let us make man in God's image, might leave an opening for people to say, oh, are there more than one God? Not let us make man. Who are you talking to, God? Nasa Adam. Even despite that possibility, shehu taus b'deya, which is a mistake in wisdom and knowledge, intellect, the cholzos, nevertheless, Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, harotza litos yate. Who wants? You want to make a mistake? Make a mistake. Because without this idea that Hashem humbled Himself by asking the midos, the malach hasharis means the midos. The malach hasharis does not mean floppy angels. It means the angels, which angels means malachim. Malachim means messengers of God. Messengers of God are the midos that Hashem put into the world. What are they? Hashem, Hashem, Kel, Rachum v'chanun. These are all angels. Rachum v'chanun. What do these mean? Hashem means consistency. Are we a consistent person? Are we a consistent person, a persevering person? Hashem. Kale means leadership. Am I a leader in mercy? So Hashem means consistency. Kale means leadership with mercy. Rachum, am I compassionate like God? Chanun, am I empathic like God? Sensitive, nurturing like God. Empathic. Chen. Erech apayim, patient, laid back. Erech apayim. Rav chesed, giving. Emes, honest and person of integrity. Notzer chesed, creativity. God is a creator. Some of us are creative with art and with music, with ideas, creativity. Noise avam v'pesha v'chata'a are forgiving. God is forgiving. I should act like Him and forgive my wife and my children and my neighbor and my rabbi and people who hurt my feelings. And v'nakei is to pardon or to be resilient. Resilience. So these midos are the midos of 13 midos of Hashem. These 13 midos were said by Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu to gain forgiveness for the Cheta Egel. And therefore on Yom Kippur and every day that we say, and Bahab, we say these midos, because our job is the seminal job, the main job of our life is to be like God. The purpose of life is to act like God, is to be like God. Nothing short of that. What an incredible vote of confidence that Hashem has given us when He created the world and He created man and He put within man, Nasa Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kidmusenu. God placed within us the image, which means the potential, to be like God, Kidmusenu, like the form of God. How? By being domelo, by being like God. How? Kindness, chesed.
So,
Alexander.
Is there a tie with the Rashi of Ani v'ho as the Atzmo? We just said that on Hoshana Rabbah, Ani v'ho.
Absolutely right.
What's the special tie with Sukkos and
Oh.
Lulav and Hoshana to this idea of Ani v'ho and Midos?
Beautiful question. Ani v'ho Hoshiana. Ani v'ho in Hoshana Rabbah.
Right.
Ani v'ho. Me and him. So what do? We take the lulav. The lulav is our spine. The esrog is our heart. The aravos are our lips. The hadas is our eyes, right? We take our whole being and we take them and we serve Hashem. Kol atzmosai tomar. Now, our whole being is to serve Hashem. So ani v'hoshia. Now, how do you do that? By being a shutta for the Kodesh Baruch Hu, being a partner with God, by acting like God. Ani v'hoshia. Me and you, when I act like God, I will bring you Hoshiana. When we act like God, we bring redemption. You want to bring Mashiach? Act like God today. And that's bringing Mashiach one step closer. Ani v'ho, you and me, God, we're together, Shutfim, we're going to bring Mashiach. Just like Hashem said, Nasa Adam, let us make man in an image by acting like God. We're going to act like God. So to Ani v'ho Hoshiana, you and I together will act like God. I'm going to be a shutaf with Hashem. I'm going to be a partner with God. I'm going to bring Mashiach. How? By my acting like God. That is the redemption. We're going to bring, of course, Mashiach. But when we act in a worthy fashion to be like God, that makes this world a place where Hashem wants to bring the Mashiach. We have to create that kind of atmosphere. So says the Alter over here. In the second paragraph, at the end of the second paragraph, without that idea that Hashem humbled Himself by speaking with the Malach Hashem, so without the idea that Hashem teaches us midos and we have to emulate those midos, without that, that a greater person has to humble himself and speak to the katan. Let them make a mistake and think there's two gods. You know why? Because without this concept that man has to have humility to be like God who was humble, there is no understanding of God. V'yesh lahadif, and it's better. Eifo lagalos asayediya hazos. It's more important to reveal this concept of being like God, of acting like God, than to let people possibly make a mistake to think that there's more than one God. It's more important to have midos tovos than to let the opening to happen that maybe people might think that nasa adam means there's more than one God. Chas v'shalom. There's not more than one God. But Hashem said, I want to put this principle in the world, the idea of midos tovos, so I am going to ask the midos, Hashem, kiracham v'charon, these malachim, I'm going to ask them, let's join together. Na'asa, let us join together and put these midos into man, even before man was created, so that is a principle that man should know, that is the way to know God. And if people want to come and think that, maybe there's more than one God, nah, I'm not worried about that. Nasa Adam, let us make man. You think there's more than one God? No. It's more important for the world to know that man has to act with midos tovos than for us to worry that maybe there's a possibility that someone will think. No one will think that. And if they think that, that's their mistake. That's their problem. But what Hashem is saying to us is Nasa Adam, having good midos, is part and parcel of the mitzvah of Yidiyas Hashem, of knowing God. And we will continue next week in Yirtzeh Hashem on the bottom of page 8 with the idea of Hodi'enina Esrecha. We'll continue next week on bottom of page 8 in Yirtzeh Hashem. And we're going to apply this principle every week. So I'm going to take this principle, and every week I'm going to apply it to the parsha of the week, and how we can find the concept of greatness of man in each week's parsha. It's Hashem.